Hello, connoisseurs of fine common cardboard. Welcome to the stream today. My name is Ryan, Papa Pauper. Stoked to have you all on board today. Let's see who we got in chat. Got a couple of folks. Get all of our stream things going well here. Get some music back going. There we go. Good stuff. All right. Well, welcome, folks. Glad to have you on the stream today. And today we're going to be focusing on Slimefoot the Stowaway. And for those of you unfamiliar with the commander, Slimefoot the Stowaway is a prolific creator of sapperling tokens. And my personal experience with Slimefoot goes all the way back to my very beginnings with PDH as a format. This was my first commander that I ever played, and was kind of my first introduction to really grindy control deck. And it's a fabulous commander. We'll talk a little bit about why that is here. Get this music kind of quiet it down just a little bit here. There we go. Cool. Can everybody do a quick check here and make sure y'all can hear me? Check. All right. Yeah, looks like I am coming through. Cool. So yeah, Slimefoot the Stowaway is a 1 green and a black or a 2/3 that is going to have an aristocrat's effect for sapperlings. So each opponent's going to take damage whenever our sapperlings die, and we're going to gain some life. And then we have the ability to sink mana into Slimefoot to make more of these sapperlings. Hey, Chris Lively, stoked to have you here. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Thanks for the little check on the audio there. Yeah, so today we're going to build Slimefoot, and a little bit of the reason why I wanted to return to Slimefoot is that as the Competitive Pauper Commander meta has proliferated and diversified, things that traditionally weren't capable of competing in competitive pods are now able to be successful. And it's because we have changes in the meta that have shifted it away from a purely combo-centric meta, and there are very fair mid-range control things to do, non-combo things to do, or even soft combo in some cases, that Slimefoot actually I think is really well positioned in the metaphor. So we can talk about a little bit of what that looks like. Something I have observed is that in the cPDH meta, there's a much wider array of value creatures and just creatures in play. The boards are a little more clogged, there's a lot more stuff, and there's reasons to have more stuff in play because your chances of actually dying to combat damage are relatively high. Other things that make the wide board that Slimefoot is able to create really appealing are the kind of ubiquitous presence of both the initiative and the monarch in the format, and the ability to not only swarm your opponent with tokens that get punished for blocking, but that also can get around a lot of blockers by having a lot of attackers, is a great way to reclaim or to hold on to the monarch and the initiative. And so these are some of the things I'm quite interested in with Slimefoot as we build it today. Now, I'm not the first one to attempt a cPDH Slimefoot. We have members of the Tryhards Discord server who have been working on this as well. Namely, we have Jorbalicious, who's done a fair bit of work on this archetype in the server. Let me take a quick look here and see if I can find the other people that have been working on this. Slimefoot chat, we've got Nate Diggity who's working on it, Golden Sun was working on it, and admittedly, I had decided to not work on this one so much once I kind of took my stab into cPDH, focusing instead on Crackling Drake, Witherbloom Apprentice, and Murmuring Mystic, which were my 3 first kind of stabs at the format. But we're coming full circle with Slime Boy here, our little fungal friend, and we're gonna see if we can make this work today. So one of the core fundamental elements of this deck that I think is going to be important in making it successful is a really hefty ramp package. And part of that is because we have the payoff and the mana sink on the same card. I've played a lot of aristocrats in other formats. Pauper is one of them, certainly. And to have a card that has both the payoff and the mana sink on it, so essentially like the reward for making all of the things, the reward for the things dying, and then the ability to make the things, the food or the fodder, is a really unusual and powerful thing. And you'll notice that WotC doesn't oftentimes print cards that have too many of those things on one piece, because then they become a self-contained engine. It can be too powerful. So Slimefoot has a lot of those on it, and that's what makes it really appealing. And it means that we want to have a ton of mana when we're playing this deck, so that not only can we freely recast Slimefoot the Stowaway as many times as we need to, but that we can also sink a ton of mana and make a ton of Saproings. So I have not started this deck from scratch, as we did with Rona, Sheoldred's Faithful, last week. This time around, I do actually have a pretty good sense of what it is that we want to be doing with Slimefoot. So I do have a considering section of 139 cards here that we're going to be looking at. We have way more cards that play in this deck than we're going to be able to fit in the deck. So just keep that in mind as we go about this. But we're going to see some categories here that that I like to use when I'm building my aristocrats decks. So this creatures section is not usually one that I'll leave. This is just the standard formatting that they have. But in an aristocrats deck, you have different categories of creatures. You're going to have creatures that are aristocrats. They're the ones that sacrifice things. You're going to have creatures that are food. Okay. Things that namely make multiple tokens or multiple bodies, something in that nature. And then you're going to have payoff creatures. So a good example of a payoff creature would be something like, let's see if we can find it here. Something like Mortician Beetle, which I actually don't have listed in here, it looks like. Yeah, we don't have Mortician Beetle in here, but Mortician Beetle is a really good example of that. It's a creature that is essentially 1 mana, 1/1 that's going to get a +1/+1 counter anytime a player sacrifices a creature. It's really powerful. Body Dropper is also a payoff. It doesn't fit in this deck, but it's a good payoff. So we're going to have things that sacrifice, things that we sacrifice, and then things that like to see things sacrifice. Another good example of that would be what is it? Man, it's not here, so I'm having a hard time finding it, but it's called it's a 3 mana 2/3. Every time anyone sacrifices a permanent, sacrifice permanent. This is going to be green. Bloodbriar. Yeah, there we go. So whenever you sacrifice another permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on Bloodbriar. So this is another great example of a payoff. So we are going to add that in there. So yeah, let's get it started here. As we go along, if you have thoughts, recommendations, feedback, guidance, ideas about how you think this deck should be built, please let me know in the comments. And thank you all for being here today. It's great to have everyone here, and look forward to a good long stream. For those of you interested, after we finish Slimefoot, we are going to work on a couple of other really exciting things. One of those is we're going to be figuring out how to tune Sailor's Bane for a different kind of meta than what I initially built the deck for. So that's going to be a ton of fun. And I have a couple of other projects up my sleeve too. So we're going to be doing this for about 3 hours here. I think the Slimefoot should probably take us an hour, hour and a half or so. So yeah, let's get her started here. There's a couple of slam dunks in this deck. And actually, maybe we rewind a little bit away from just the really good cards we want to play and talk about our game plan and our strategy. There are combos that we can play in Slimefoot that are hard combos. Things like Ivy Lane Denizen, Putrid Goblin, with, and then some sacrifice outlet and a payoff. And what that's going to allow us to do is sacrifice the Putrid Goblin. It has a persist trigger. The Ivy Lane Denizen is going to add counters. It's going to help us go infinite. But I actually think that the way we want to be doing this is focusing instead on perhaps soft combo cards and then playing a really hard control, grindy ramp style deck. And the way that we might have a soft combo is like cards like Sprout Swarm, where when we have a certain number of Saprolings in play, Sprout Swarm gets to be, pretty efficient at making a ton of bodies really quickly. And if those bodies die, which eventually they will, either by our means or someone else's, we're going to get triggers, and that's fantastic. Also, Sprout Swarm paired with Ashnod's Altar becomes approximately 1 mana per Saproling. So, Chris Lively, are there any Chatterfang doubling season effects that could go infinite with Slimefoot and Ashnod's Altar? There are not. Those effects are generally not in common, and we don't have anything that is going to allow us to double up on tokens. We just have ways to, like Sprout Swarm and Ashnod's Altar is about as close as we get to something like that. Oh, my man, James. What is up, dude? So, folks, my buddy James here, childhood friend of mine. We've been friends for 20 years, and James's favorite thing to build in Magic are decks where your creatures just want to die. And I love it. So, back in the day, he played, oh God, what was it called? It's a Hapatra, Vizier of Poisons, I believe, which is the green and a black. Every time you put -1/-1 counters on things, you make snakes. And then there are some cool payoffs there. So, James, glad to have you. Thanks for coming, man. Yeah, so to your question, Chris, Sprout Swarm, Ashnod's Altar, that is about as close as we can get to making, just absolutely giant numbers of Saprolings. And, at that rate, we could have a turn where if we have 15 mana, we might be able to get 15 triggers off of Slimefoot just with those 2 cards and our existing board. If we have some sort of sacrifice engine like that, we could potentially kill the table all at once with those 2 cards. You're going to notice too, we have Shred Memory as a way to tutor for this. This is a transmute spell. So this is going to allow us, let's see, are we getting a little cutoff here on the screen? I want to check this out. Oh, we are not in deck tech. There we go. Let's switch over into deck tech. There we go. Yeah, a little bit of a better view. Hey, there we go. Yeah, we're working out the kinks. This is only the second time we've done this. So yeah, we've got Sprout Swarm being findable by Shred Memory, which is a transmute spell, allows us to look for something of a similar mana cost. So Sprout Swarm would be our find with that. Unfortunately, we don't have a common black we don't have a common black transmute spell. The one that comes to mind is uncommon. It's called Dimir Machinations, and that has not yet been downshifted. So we do not have a way to tutor up the Ashnod's Altar, but we do have a lot of things we can play that can draw us cards. So let's start dragging and dropping these cards in here. There's a couple that really come to mind that I like a lot. Plagued Rusalka is one of them. Pay 1 black, sack a creature. Target creature gets +1, -1/-1. This is going to be a repeatable Aristocrats effect, while also giving us a way to neuter attackers or to kill creatures, and generally is pretty powerful. It also gets around indestructible. So we are going to move this to the main board. Viscera Seer, namely in Aristocrats decks, we are going to be looking for abilities that allow us to sacrifice creatures at instant speed for free, which is one place where Plagued Rusalka doesn't fully fit our needs, but beggars can't be choosers in this particular format, because the effect sacrifice a creature, some payoff is exceptionally powerful. And it's one that Wizards of the Coast tends to be very cautious about as well. So we will move in Viscerous here. It's amazing. We're going to be able to sacrifice creatures at instant speed to scry, which can help us dig. One of the other amazing repeatable removal spells in the format for this deck in particular is Deathspore Thallid. It's a 1/1 zombie focus fungus for 2, and it allows us to not only create saprolings in niche cases, generally it doesn't stick around on a field for very long, but if it is in play for 3 turns, you can make a saproling token. But what we're really interested in is sacrifice a saproling, target creature gets -1/-1 till end of turn. This is much better than Plagued Rusalka, and it is indeed a monster. Nate Diggity, welcome. Glad to have you here. Yeah, this is absolutely something we're going to play. Lampad of Death's Vigil is another one that we're going to bring in. This one says sacrifice creature for 1 colorless. Each opponent's going to lose 1, and we're going to gain 1. Lampad is very powerful with Slimefoot. We're going to start hitting everybody for 2 and gaining 2 on every single mop-up of one of our creatures. It also just happens to be a 1/3, which comes down early on 2. So this is definitely one we're going to be playing. A new card that got printed is Gibbering Barricade. This is a 2/4 defender for 3. It's going to give us the ability to pay 3, sacrifice another creature, or actually this is a creature, so it can sacrifice itself, which is fantastic. That's awesome. We're going to gain 1 life and draw a card. And we're going to play a couple of these effects because the ability to sink our superior mana into an effect that allows us to sacrifice things over and over again to draw cards can be very powerful. We have 15 mana in play. We'll be able to do that 3 times, which not only has triggers for our Slimefoot, but it's also going to draw us cards. Also important to mention is that Oubliette is a really powerful spell in this format. Oubliette is 1 black, enchantment, comes down, acts like Journey to Nowhere or Oblivion Ring, where it's going to basically kill a creature. In the case of Oubliette, it's going to phase it out. And phasing means it doesn't leave the battlefield, it doesn't re-enter the battlefield if Oubliette is destroyed. It's just basically snapping into play, and it doesn't have any ETB that comes with it. And it also means that, in particular, Oubliette doesn't allow us to recast our commander, which is really problematic. So if somebody Oubliette's your commander, it's going to be under the Oubliette until the Oubliette is gone. And yeah, Nate, burn it with fire. Yeah, I am personally a proponent of having Oubliette banned. It's a very powerful card that essentially can take a whole player and remove them from the game single-handedly. Pauper Commander decks are built around their commanders more so than other formats because uncommon creatures are just that much more powerful than common creatures, especially with power creep coming into play. There's just a lot of synergy, and when somebody takes your commander and removes it from the game, there's a good chance that you are no longer an effective participant in the game until that thing goes away. And they can be hard to get rid of. Oubliette is an enchantment, so some colors don't really have any way to deal with that. So Gibbering Barricade, giving us the ability to sack a creature as the Oubliette is targeting it, means we put it back in the command zone and recast it again. So we're going to move that one to the main board, and it's not the only one that has that effect. We have Soul Reaper of Mogus, which is also great. 3 mana, 2/3. We're going to move that one, and that one draws cards. Spark Reaper is also great. We have a similar stat line on all of these. They've got big butts, and then some sort of ability to repeatedly sacrifice creatures to gain card advantage. So these are going to be great. Now, another of the aristocrats that we have here is Dimir Houseguard. I'm going to move this one in. This one transmutes for 4, and there's a lot of things at 4 that we really like in this deck, namely our sweepers, but not restricted to our sweepers. Dimir Houseguard is also an aristocrat. It also sacrifices creatures, and it has evasion too, which this card, if you're casting it on its own, is fantastic. It's going to play like a combo card in that if we just have this, and we want to end the game by sacrificing a bunch of stuff while Slimefoot is in play, we can do that. It also has that evasion, and there's a lot of black decks in the format right now, so having Fear is going to allow us to essentially get in and steal, or it's going to allow us to help steal the Monarch and the Initiative from decks that that don't have the means to block it. Fear, I believe, is going to mean we're going to be unblockable to artifact and black creature. Can't be blocked except artifact and black creature. So basically, like non-black decks and decks without artifacts in play aren't going to be able to block it, and we'll be able to take that initiative in Monarch and probably sit on it for a long time. So we're going to move that into the main board. Some of the cards that we're probably high likelihood of playing here are Night Soil. And we're going to switch the printing here so we can really see the clear text of this card. And this is a card that I've been wanting to play in my green cPDH decks for a long time, but there just never were enough creatures in people's decks to actually make this an effective engine or effective graveyard hate. One of the things I'm noticing now, based on the decks that I build, but also the decks that other people build, is that there's a lot of means of getting our creatures back from the graveyard and reusing them over and over again. Yeah, Zach, hey man, welcome to the stream, dude. Love Night Soil, very cool token maker. I fully agree. And with people running, as many as 4 or even 5 Mass Edict creatures in their decks, cards like Night Soil are fantastic when people are trying to reuse those things. There's a Mortuary Mire, Witch's Cottage. They're using Haunted Fengraf. They might be even using Tortured Existence. Those spells allow people to create board states that are very difficult to break through because they just keep playing these creatures that come into play, sacrifice themselves. Everybody has to sacrifice a creature, goes into the graveyard, and then you play like a land or you have some sort of spell or effect. It's going to take that creature and put it back inside your hand or into your library, on top of your library. And so this particular card allows you to snipe those cards out of the graveyard, which is very good. So we are going to play this. We have some kind of cheese factor cards in here. And I don't know that I'm fully sold on them. We have Tainted Strike and Phyresis, granting our slimy boy Infect. And there's a low likelihood we end up playing these cards, but Tainted Strike in particular does have the benefit of being instant speed and just 1 mana. So there's a possibility that if we have enough creatures, that we could just combo kill the table with Infect. Nate Diggity 7, from personal experience, the Infect cards aren't as good in Slimefoot. Yeah, I think that's been my read on it too. I think Phyresis in particular, just, first of all, I don't think this deck wants this kind of attention. I don't think that we want people to be, really worried about us. But Tainted Strike can act as a 1-creature fog. A 1-creature fog. Oh, I see. Okay, so we're playing Tainted Strike kind of like Darkness, in a sense. So you hit a creature an opponent controls with Tainted Strike. They do Infect counters instead of damage, and then they never do Infect ever again. That's actually pretty genius. I like that. That's a good idea, Nate. A couple of other cards here that I like in this deck are Saproling Migration and Scatter the Seeds. And these might seem weird because Slimefoot makes tokens anyways, but Scatter the Seeds and Saproling Migration are significantly more efficient than the token generation on Slimefoot. So I think these are cards that we want to play. Scatter the Seeds in particular is literally just like free Saprolings, and 3 of them at instant speed. So we want that. Here's one of our payoffs, and that's Falkenrath Noble. I think having Falkenrath Noble in play with Slimefoot is going to be really powerful, not only for padding our life total, but also you could really pour a lot of damage into a single player with Falkenrath Noble. It also flies. It's a black evasive creature. It flips off of Throne of the Dead 3 off of the initiative exceptionally well. So we are going to move this into the main board. Ashnod's Altar into the main board. Sprout Swarm definitely into the main board. Shred Memory, forgot to mention this before, but I really like this card because it's also just graveyard hate. So we are going to move that into the main board as well. Okay, so you're going to see that we have a huge number of sweepers in this deck. And that is because not only do we want to create massive resource disparity for the table, because we're a control deck and we want to have big 1 for 3s and 1 for 4s, but we also want to be, in some cases, killing our own stuff. So if we get into a grindy late game scenario, the ability to land our commander when maybe somebody's tapped out or people have like been run out of interaction, and then resolve a pestilence. It's going to be very scary for the rest of the table. You pop this thing for 1, all your saprolings die, everybody takes 1, and then they take 1 for every saproling you have. So these are easy slam dunks in the deck. So we've got Pestilence, we have Eye Blight Massacre. This is one that I've started to play as well. It gives -2/-2 instead of damage. Doesn't hit everybody, but it only does it for non-elves, and it's 4 mana. I think this is perfectly fine. Evankar's Justice is 2 damage to each player, each creature, buyback for if you pay the 7. So we're going to play this as well. I like the fact that it actually hits players. Gangrenous Zombies is not usually one that I play in decks, and the reason being is it's incredibly telegraphed, and whoever suffers the most from the Gangrenous Zombies is going to make you pay for playing this card, or somebody's going to kill it, and essentially you won't get the effect that you're looking for, as opposed to Crypt Rats, where it can come into play, activate right away, and go. The reason that I'm interested in Gangrenous Zombies is because we actually are going to be pretty interested in leaning heavily into the initiative and the Monarch. And the initiative in this deck, if we flip Gangrenous Zombies into play, is actually going to give us hexproof until our next turn, which is buying us time to actually crack this and deal the 2 damage to everything. So this is one that is going to be on my watch list because it has some limitations. So we're going to leave it in this for now, but it is one that I'll be keeping an eye on. Alternatively, we could just play Arms of Hadar. So yeah, Nate Diggity, Zombies isn't great IMO. Yeah, I agree. Chris Lively, so many sweepers only being 2 damage is so nice. Not to kill Slimefoot by themselves. That's a really, really good point. Yeah, that's something that folks will notice is that most of the sweepers that we have, and that is, they're all 2 damage. There are exceptions. Pestilence can do more if you have the mana for it, and Crypt Rats can do more if you have the mana for it. But most things, Breath Weapon, Fiery Cannonade, Evankar's Justice, Arms of Hadar, these sorts of spells are usually just doing it for 2. Puzzle Box, what? Papa Pauper playing a deck that loves Monarch and Initiative? Who'd have thunk it? Nah, not me. No. Crypt Rats is a dead giveaway. Okay, so some of the cards that also seem like a slam dunk, and we're going to work on those ones too. Yeah, Zach, mind blown. Is newly printed Master Chef. Commander creatures you own have this creature enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it, and other creatures you control enter the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. Not only is this this is kind of gross in a lot of ways. Like if all of our saprolings are coming in as 2/2s, that kind of makes this deck a little bit like Gormod, where you're just pumping out these 2/2 creatures. And 2/2 is big enough that you can start to line those up on blocks to kill things profitably. They're also big enough that you're able to swing in with just a zombie horde and your opponent blocks and kills some of them, but then you just get in for a bunch of damage. So Master Chef is very exciting to me. These backgrounds that make your commander appealing to kill are not my favorite, but Master Chef has the benefit of actually protecting, in a sense, Slimefoot, because it's going to come in with a +1/+1 counter, and then Slimefoot hits this really special spot in cPDH, which is 4 toughness and black. If you're a black creature, you dodge a lot of forms of black removal, and if you're 4 toughness, you dodge a lot of red removal. So I like Master Chef for that reason. We're going to move that into the main board. There's a couple of other ones that we're going to want there too. Namely, we're going to want Ivy Lane Denizen. Even though we're not going to play any sort of persist combos, Ivy Lane Denizen is going to be a powerful enabler for making our board big. So whenever another green creature enters the battlefield, we're going to put a +1/+1 on target creature. So target creature is interesting because we don't have to just put it on the one that came in. We can load up on something really big. So we're gonna do this. I'm not really sure what these effects are called. Counters. It's kind of funny. I guess is like some sort of, it's like a payoff of a sort. Actually, we'll just do that. Payoff, like this, and we gotta make sure we change this pestilence art to this beautiful new one here. Yeah, I hate a white border. I hate a white bordered card so much. Yeah, switch that over to there. Okay, so we've got that. Zach, does persist go in with those? So our persist cards would be mainly just oh, we actually, no, we need to do rarity common. There we go. Hey, XRL, thanks for coming, man. Good to have you here. We actually do have a variety of creatures that we could play. It's actually a lot of creatures that do the persist thing. So these all represent multiple bodies. In fact, Eerie Oofs here represents 3 bodies, which is great. In fact, Rattleblaze Scarecrow also does that. I don't know that this is the path I want to take because there's really no payoff with Slimefoot. So we're gonna get like maybe infinite death triggers, but yeah, it needs to be green for Denizen. Yeah, so we're talking Rend Clawtro or Eerie Oofs would be the only ones. This is not a path I am excited about. It's interesting, but like the Slimefoot isn't a payoff for it. Slimefoot doesn't even have the sacrifice outlet for it. Chris Jackson, are you playing any rituals, Dark Cabal, Culling, or is it not worth to power out an initiative creature to push ahead of the table? Chris, welcome to the stream. In terms of your question, I think it's actually very much worth pumping out a creature with initiative or monarch that gets us started on initiative or monarch, and particularly initiative because initiative just does more than monarch, in my opinion. However, we're not going to use rituals to do that. We're going to use just good old-fashioned ramp. We're looking to have so much more mana than everybody else in this deck, and the way we're going to do that is with powerful ramp effect. So let's actually focus on that fundamental element of the deck here. I've got a huge section dedicated to ramp that I want to talk about. Now, there's going to be a split of cards you're going to notice here. Some of them are going to be creature spells, and some of them are going to be just instants and sorceries. And I think my intuition tells me that the creatures that ramp are going to be more ideal for what we're looking for because it's just more bodies. And those bodies can be converted into resources later on, or they can do stuff for us. So we might dip into things like Cultivate and Grow from the Ashes, Kodama's Reach, because these are very high value ramp spells. They're not only finding us our second, our other land, but they're putting one into play right at that moment, fixing our mana. So I think those ones are just good enough that we'll play them because we are a control deck and we want to go late game. So I'm going to move those ones in. Particularly, Grow from the Ashes is such an insane spell. Obviously Cultivate and Kodama's Reach are exactly what we're looking for, but there will be more than that. Something like Sakura Tribe Elder could be good too. I like the idea that if we top deck these creature-based ramp spells, that we don't need to use this to find a land. We could put this into play and then sacrifice it to a draw card, whatever, like a Soul Reaper of Mogus or something. So I do like that. We have Primal Druid, which when it dies, you find it and put it in the battlefield. That's a little too conditional. We have a couple of these other ones that put things into play once you sacrifice him. Farhaven Elf is exactly the kind of card we want to be playing. We'll probably play Bonder's Ornament as well, just because Bonder's Ornament's going to give us a really powerful mana sink to draw cards. Spring Bloom Druid is going to be Harrow on a body, so we want that. Wood Elves is going to be searching for a forest card, which is great. Puts it onto the battlefield untapped, but this also allows us to find one of the 2 new dual lands. So we definitely want this one. It can also find us a Gingerbread Cabin if we need to gain life. Yavimaya Elder is going to find 2 lands, draw us a card. This one's great. Yavimaya Granger, 3 mana 2/2. When it comes into play, find a basic land card, put it into play tapped. And then later on, we can decide whether we want to echo it or not. Chris Jackson, with that, do you play cards like Consume Strength for combat tricks then? Consume Strength. You know, I know this card. It's from Invasion. Let's go take a peek at this one. It's yeah, black-green. Another target creature gets +2/+2. Another one gets -2/-2. You know, this one here, you know, there's quite a bit of value on this, but I don't know that the buff is something that we really care about. And the removal isn't really potent enough for 3 mana. So we're going to play a more efficient, more powerful removal spells. And we can take a look at some of those. Feed the Swarm allows us to destroy enchantments. This is a staple in black decks. If you aren't playing it, it's potentially a mistake. Go for the Throat is a staple. We're going to play Snuff Out because we're going to have tons of life. And this card is just free removal. It's allowing us to kill something for 4 life. Brain Spoil is a card that I was considering for this deck. It is a kill spell. It's a pretty bad kill spell. 5 mana, destroy target creature that isn't enchanted. It can't be regenerated. Regeneration isn't super common in cPDH or really in PDH at all. However, it transmutes for 5. And there's some stuff at 5 that we like, namely Savage Thallid, which allows us to start regenerating, which I just said that regenerate isn't common. This is one of them. Savage Thallid allows us to regenerate target fungus by sacrificing Saprolings, which means that our Slimefoot, which is a fungus, and the Savage Thallid are protecting themselves from removal. It also makes Saprolings occasionally. So we can find this, we can find Rot-Tide Garganta, we can find Initiative. We can find Avenging Hunter and gain the initiative with Brain Spoil, and I think that that's powerful. The other thing we can find with this is Underdark Explorer, another initiative card. We can find Staunch Throne Guard, which is Monarch, and we can find Spore Mound. And Spore Mound has landfall. Whenever a creature enters the battle, or a land enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 green Saproling creature token. So I think Brain Spoil will be going in here as a tutor. We have Mob, and this is actually like one of the rare decks where you actually see Mob, I think, being like a good card. 5 mana, Convoke, destroy target creature at instant speed. It's unconditional removal. The condition being that, yes, you have to have some stuff in play. So if you top deck this later on and maybe your board just got swept, maybe somebody killed your Slimefoot and then they swept your board, you didn't get anything for those creatures. The beauty of this card is that this is a ramp deck. And yeah, we're not going to be happy to cast this for 5, but we will cast it for 5. And in a lot of cases, this is going to be better than Snuff Out, right? We'll just like tap our commander for the black and then tap a bunch of random creatures for the 4. And we'll just murder something at instant speed. So this is going to be very good. Another removal spell that I'm a big fan of, that I'm going to be exploring in this deck, is playing Ashes to Ashes. This is a 3 mana, exile 2 non-artifact creatures from the game. It deals 5 damage to you. And 5 damage is a lot. However, this is like 3 mana, kill 2 things forever, take 5. The 5 doesn't really matter to me that much. So XRL, we got Jonathan saying, any overrun effects in common? We have a few overrun effects in okay, specifically when you say overrun, you're describing the pump as well as the evasion, primarily trample, or maybe menace would be another example. Yeah, board buff. There aren't very many. There is one though, and that is Echoing Courage. And Echoing Courage is a very interesting card in this deck because target creature and all other creatures the same name as that creature get +2/+2 until end of turn. This turns all of our Saprolings into 3/3s, which actually could protect them from a sweeper or could run over a player and really clap their cheeks. So Zach says you meet in a tavern is a great call. This is a card that helped Elves players get off the suicide watch list here, because it gave them card advantage as well as an overrun effect, depending on what you needed. Elves in 60 card has not been a very effective strategy lately since Makeshift Munitions was printed, and so this card really helped them claw back in by drawing cards or by pumping up the team. So yeah, let's throw that one in here. I think this one's also going to be a hashtag overrun. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Echoing Courage is scary though, because they can just remove your target. Yeah, I think that's a good point. So if you've got a token and say somebody goes Fiery Cannonade and you go Echoing Courage targeting your creature and someone goes Bolt and kills that creature, then the Echoing Courage is not going to resolve, and that's going to allow them to kill your whole board. So I think that's a reasonable take. We may still play it because it's still just a powerful way to end the game potentially. That one might be on the watch list though. Like we may not choose to keep that in. This is a payoff. There we go. But you absolutely run it. It says YOLO. We're doing it anyways, boys. Okay. Some other slam dunks here in ramp. I think that Grow from the Ashes is just that good. Sky Shroud's Claim is so powerful in this deck. Being able to find 2 forest cards is really great. Put them into play untapped. Quirion Trailblazer comes into play. Put a basic land card into play. Ondu Giant. I think this is a great card. 4 mana, makes a 2/4, so it is 1 more mana than what we would usually want to pay for a ramp spell. But it is producing a very relevant body. A 2/4 is very good. Wild Wanderer is a 3/2, a little bit weirder stats, but it does put a land into play. I think we'll play that one as well. Yavimaya Granger is at that nice 3 mana. Silverglade Elemental is one that I'm actually kind of interested in. Comes into play, you may search your library for a forest card, put it into play, and then shuffle your library. Does not say tapped or untapped. The beauty of this card is that it's just a 4/4. This thing is like ramp and like Chungus Body. So I'm into it. In that same vein, these are not ramp spells. They're just going to go find us a land. But this Greater Tanuki can be channeled to go ramp or to go find a land. And then Krosan Tusker is going to be both card advantage, significant card advantage. You're going to get a land and a card. And later on, we can just cast this thing as a 6/5, which is great. So I like those cards a lot. All right. You're going to see that we're going to be a Spore Mound better be in the deck. Yeah, we haven't gotten there yet, but you can see it is listed in our considering section. We're just going to add these ones in here. This one's actually also protection. So we'll do that. Move that to main board. We are going to slam all of the initiative and all of the Monarch cards in here because they are good. They are very good. Vulturous Aven is a really good one for this deck too. It's going to allow us to sacrifice a Saproling and basically Night's Whisper. And it's a 2/3 flyer. So love it. Love that card. Entourage of Trest, our other Monarch card. Yeah, so we got a good start here. Let's see what we've got so far. So we've got all these creatures here. We've got 17 ramp spells. That's quite a few. Quite a few. We're going to add all this protection in here, namely because we really just don't want to get oublieted. Broken Fall is not going to help with oubliette, unfortunately, but Broken Fall is a way to repeatedly protect our Slimefoot. So that's a good one. I think we're probably going to have enough creatures in this deck that we could also be playing Lead the Stampede and maybe even Winding Way as forms of card advantage. Rot-Tide Garganta is going to be in here. Slum Reaper is going to be in here. Chain Devil. Oops, gotta go. Oop. Chain Devil is going to be in here. Although this one makes each player sacrifice a non... Oh, no, that's good for us, yeah, because we can just sacrifice... We just sacrifice Chain Devil. Phyrexian Rager is going to draw us a card, and then later on could draw us a card again if we sacrifice it. That into play. Fertilid is also ramp, and we're going to want that one in. This one ramps twice. Great. Okay. The other edicts that we'll play are Abyssal Gatekeeper, which is one that you don't oftentimes see in decks because a lot of times decks don't have... They just won't like have an extra creature to sacrifice. But the beauty of Abyssal Gatekeeper is, even though it does cost you another creature, these effects are really, really, really powerful. And our creatures are easy to make. We can get more of them. So I think increasing the density of edict effects in this deck that are attached to bodies that we can reuse over and over is very good. We may even choose to play these ones. Innocent Blood definitely goes in. We don't care if we lose a creature. Zach says, love the edict creatures to upgrade the saps. Yeah. We might, in a lot of cases, in this deck, we may end up choosing to sack Saprolings instead of the creature itself because the bodies are very relevant. And the reason I mention that is because I find myself most of the time wanting to sacrifice the edict creature so that I can reuse it again later on with some sort of Mortuary Mire, Witch's Cottage, Death Denied, Reaping the Graves, Soulstare Expedition type thing, Haunted Fengraf. And so in this deck, we might actually find ourselves upgrading the Saprolings by sacking a Saproling instead of a Slum Reaper. Village Rites, Costly Plunder, Deadly Dispute, probably Night's Whisper, Sign in Blood, Siphon Mind. These other ones here, we might be looking for a different kind of card draw. Maybe the card draw that we find on a creature, where it's going to, ETB, draw us a card, or a creature that's going to allow us to sacrifice things to draw cards. So currently we have 18 sources of draw, which is kind of nuts. We're actually at 76 cards in the main board without lands. So let's get these lands in here. We've got this kind of pre-made here. Again, the part of the challenge here is not so much coming up with the cards that are good, but it's coming up with the cards that are the best. Because we can't play them all. Path of Ancestry, probably great here. We will be casting Slimefoot several times. Jungle Hollow, we might not need. That life gain's probably not super relevant for us. Fengraf, yep. Jonathan, Night Soil is in the deck. Golgari Rot Farm is great with crop rotation because it can help us reuse a Bajuka Bog or all sorts of other things. We have Barrenmoor and Tranquil Thicket. I don't know that we necessarily need those. Yeah, I think we're doing pretty good here. Harrow, interesting. Have some more removal. We're gonna have to thicken up this removal section here as well. Like maybe could play like Vendetta. We could play, Tragic Slip is very good. We are at 109 cards. So we're probably going to be 115, 120 before we start cutting. And that is okay, because we will have cut a lot of this here. So, oh yeah, Defile. Yep, good call. Good call. Yep, Defile's excellent. This is actually kind of my favorite removal spell in the whole format. Oh, we got new art. This Imperial Guardsman. For those of you who don't know, I love 40k. And this Guardsman getting... he's having bad things done to him by a flayed one, which is a Necron with the... what is it? The Flesh Terror Curse? It's like it's basically where they drape themselves in the skins of their enemies. And it's like a disease of the head that a robot has. Which, if you can parse that, good on you. But yeah, we're playing this one. Yeah, so we got that. Being that we're a control deck, we are going to want to have more removal than is currently present in the deck, which to make room, we'll probably have to cut a little bit of ramp, a little bit of draw, and potentially, yeah, probably ramp and draw mainly. It's possible that we won't even be playing cards like Mortician Beetle in this deck, as much as I'd like to. God, they're so good though. If we play Mortician Beetle with like a Rot Tide or a Slum Reaper, the thing just becomes a 5-mana card. Tortured Existence. I love this recommendation. That's a great recommendation, Chris. Tortured Existence is actually a card that I did not play a lot of in cPDH previously, and it took a game against Nate where Nate began to loop his Fleshbag Marauder over and over and over again. And my spirit was utterly crushed. And then I realized that that combination of the Monarch and the Initiative with Tortured Existence and Sacrifice Creatures is really powerful for like locking down the board. Yeah, and Jonathan, you did win that game. However, the concept remains that that Tortured Existence can create impossible board states for your opponents if you continually reuse your Edict creatures. So this is a very good one. This deck has 41 creatures in it currently, which means we're almost always going to have a way to recycle that way. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know that Broken Fall is going to fit into this picture. The reason I mention that is that while Broken Fall is good, and we're going to have lots of mana to use it over and over again, we also just have lots of mana to recast our Slimefoot. Just like cast him over and over again. So I don't know. This may not make it. I think we're in the cutting period here of this deck. If aggro is prevalent, Spore Frog would be easy to keep the initiative and rinse and repeat. Yeah. I like this recommendation, Chris. The only thing about Spore Frog is that I don't necessarily know how important it is for us to fog in this deck. We have the ability to throw tons of creatures under the bus if we need to, and we also gain life. So like our worry might be like a Crackling Drake eventually killing us, something with commander damage, a Sailor's Bane perhaps. But the other thing too is that Spore Frog can be killed after you play it, so that when it comes to your opponent's turn, you don't get to prevent the damage. So I don't know that this one is going to make it. However, we might play something like, I had somebody recommend Moments Peace, which is nice. You get to do it twice. But Pause for Reflection is particularly interesting because it is a Convoke card, which means that it's free. And that's great. So we just like free cast this thing and get to work. So, but again, I think that while this does make sense, you know, we actually do have to recognize that this deck probably doesn't need fogs to be okay. Jin Shooting Star, welcome to the stream. Glad to have you here. Oh, you're not here late. No. We've been here for an hour or so, and we're doing pretty good on Slimefoot. Although I will say, Jin, that in preparation for the stream, I did prepare a list of cards that I thought were going to be good. I had a lot of help from a variety of people on this one. And so what we're going to be doing during this stream here is cutting down to 100 to something we really like. And then we'll kind of go from there. And there will be a couple of other things we're working on tonight that involve other decks. So you're not late. You're right on. You're arriving just when you're meant to be here. And that is just fine. So I want to take a moment to thank you all for being here and coming and joining the stream this evening and sharing in the cPDH content. I think I'm going to avoid doing this too much, but if you do get a chance, take a moment, give it a little like, subscribe if you want to see more of the content, and you can hit that little bell notification icon if you do want to get notifications about other content. We're producing content 3 times a week right now. That'll be gameplay videos, meta-analysis, deck techs, and then these live streams with Clay from the Tryhards, our good friend from the Tryhards. So smash the like button, Nate says. You know, it's funny. I struggle with that a little bit. Like you know, I know that I have a habit when I watch YouTube videos of always clicking the like button if it's even reasonably good, because I know people put a lot of work into their videos. But there's this element of like everybody says it, everybody does it, and it's like maybe you do need to do it because people just forget or they don't have that habit. But we'll just see. Yeah, I don't want to be too cliche about it. Jin Shooting Star, I maybe do some cPDH content in my channel, so Brazilian players have some material to learn from. That's fantastic. Shooting Star, are you from Brazil? Brazil is a country that I've actually looked up to quite a bit since I've started playing Pauper. Yes, I'm from Rio de Janeiro. That is fantastic. For those of you that don't know, Pauper is a really, really popular format in places that in places particularly like Italy and Europe and in Spain, but then also in Latin America, all over Latin America. We are the second biggest MTG market. Yeah, Brazil is a huge hub for Magic. And I think also just, you know, understanding that these places represent a massive portion of the market. And in a lot of cases, they don't, as Jin has mentioned, they don't get a lot of recognition for it. But it's also like the home of Pauper. You know, you get massive, absolutely massive events in Brazil, in Argentina, and places like that. So glad to have you, Jin. Thank you for showing up today. And yeah, so good stuff. All right, so let's get this thing down to 100 cards. We're gonna need, I think this is gonna be a 35 land deck. So let's just get this up to 35. Mortuary Mire, we need Witch's Cottage, so we can cut a forest for this here. Dallas Peterson, heyo, in a game right now, but I'll be more focused here on my way home. Awesome, glad to have you, Dallas. Thanks for joining tonight, and yeah, good to have you here. This is a deck where we're gonna want a similar mana base to Witherbloom, where it's like 50-50, even though Witherbloom is mostly a black deck. The ramp spells, a lot of them are green, and so you play about 50-50 because you really want to make sure you have the green to cast your ramp spells, and then the ramp spells are mostly going to be finding swamps. This deck, we're probably looking at close to 50-50 anyways. Yeah, mostly black, but you know, just by a little bit. So we'll probably go down on forests, and actually we'll use the hotkeys. For those of you who don't know, Alt 2 removes cards, and Alt 1 adds them if you hover over the card. So if you hover over Snow-Covered Swamp and you click A1 or A2, you can add copies or take away copies. Just a nice little feature. Someday, the hope is that we get a little sponsorship action from Moxfield, because this software is banging. You can see I've designed a lot of my stream assets around that color scheme. I really love this deck builder. I've been through like 5 different deck builders, and Moxfield has exactly what I am looking for. So man, my throat is dry as the Sahara right now. Crazy. All this talky talk. Okay. So for the folks in stream right now, we have 10 people. Thank you so much for showing up today. Let's focus on how we're going to get this down to 100, and then we can start talking about the cards that are suboptimal or cards that can be improved on, things that we do and don't need. So where are we making cuts now? Perhaps Wild Wanderer doesn't make the cut as a 4-mana 3/2, finds a land. It's possible Greater Tanuki is not good enough because it's not actually ramping us. It's just finding us. No, it does. Whoa, wait a second. Put a land card into the battlefield tapped. Oh, I thought Greater Tanuki only found the land. Oh, that makes this card so much better. Zokarist Yenzo, welcome to the channel. I love Moxfield because I've used it a ton and never seen this way of deck layout. Never seen this way of deck layout. Oh, yeah. So for those of you that don't know, you can go up here to view and you can do all of these different styles of assemblage. So you could do text view, which, you know, will show up kind of like this. I have a hard time with this. I like to use this for 60 card decks, but in singleton decks, there's so many individual cards that this one is really hard for me to process, I think. You can do visual grid, which shows the cards all side by side and then stacked on top of each other when you get into more rows. This one is good for me too, but I find that like the art isn't super important to me. All I need to know is the title on the card. So this one is a little bit more than I need. It's a little too chaotic for me. Stacks is where I really like it because you're really just, you're getting the color, you're getting the mana cost, and you're getting the name. So Jin Shooting Star, Tanuki is amazing and sealed. Yeah, Tanuki is way better than I thought it was. I was under the impression Tanuki did not put the land into play, and it does. So when you top deck this later on, it's a 6/5 trample. Nate Diggity, Fertilid seems underwhelming, as do cantripping bodies like Phyrexian Rager, since we are running black. Is Rager's body relevant? There's a 1/1 vampire that ETBs. Yeah, Dusk Legion Zealot is what you're talking about, Jin, for 2 mana. So here's the question, Nate. I see what you're saying there with Phyrexian Rager. And maybe we don't need the extra bodies. Maybe instead of the 3 mana Phyrexian Rager, we want something like Blood Pact, or we want, you know, Read the Bones, you know, that kind of stuff. Point to discussion. I think that's a reasonable take. They do represent more card advantage, and maybe we just don't need the value that the body produces. I think that's a good enough argument for me. You all have lots of fun little guys. That's right. Lots of bodies. Let the bodies hit the floor. Let the bodies hit the floor. Let the bodies hit the tss, 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 tss. Okay. Yavimaya Elder. Jin Shooting Star says, is Mob reasonably castable? 5 is so damn much. I agree, but there's a little bit of flavor text here, and that is Convoke. This card is, I think, very strong in this deck. Convoke is going to mean that we just like tap our commander for the black, we tap our saplings for the colorless, and we just get like a free murder. In fact, it'd be worth looking up other Convoke cards. Why is it looking up? Oh, that's so funny. I've got this as a commander deck. There we go. There we go. I'm like, why are these filthy rares coming up? Unmake the Graves is really interesting. Free, return 2 target creatures from your graveyard to your hand at instant speed is pretty appealing to me. You know, our opponents like go to crack a relic, and then we just like take our saplings, tap them, and get like 2 of our edict creatures back. This is very cool. I don't know if we'll have space for it, but yeah. There's nothing else really there that I'm seeing that I like. Fertilid was another card Nate pointed out. 3 mana, 2/2, remove counters, searches our library for basic land cards, put them in play tapped. Yeah. I will mention that Fertilid is kind of gross with Ivy Lane Denizen. We can just ramp over and over and over again. Also works with, let's see, also gives us +1 from, what is it? Master Chef. So basically it comes in and we're going to get 3 uses off of it. How often is Houseguard functioning as a sack outlet versus a tutor? From Tyler. Tyler, welcome to the stream. Thanks for coming. I think that Dimir Houseguard is going to be a mix of the two. I think in a pinch, it can be either one. And I think it's good as either one. As being an instant speed, free sack outlet with built-in protection. The built-in protection isn't super relevant to me. Although it does mean if you go to combo, like combo off a little bit, and someone goes to kill your sack outlet, that they won't actually be able to do it, which, oh God, it's so strong. A lot of times this will just find Pestilence, but it can find, you know, initiative cards, it can find Monarch, it can find Siphon Mind, it can find Ivy Lane Denizen, Pestilence, all the sweepers. There is even a cheeky line where you go and you find Snuff Out. It becomes 3 mana, pay 4 life, Snuff Out, which I have done in a pinch, depending on whether your 4 mana cards are relevant at all. Nate, sure, it's good on its own. It's sure, but is it good on its own is the question. Yeah, and I think that's the more important question. Transmute plus Tortex is a synergy I hadn't considered. That's pretty cool. Oh, that's gross. So we transmute for Pestilence. We switch Dimir Houseguard with one of our other creatures. Then we transmute for Siphon Mind. No, actually, even better is we go Dimir Houseguard, transmute for Vicious Battle Rager, play Vicious Battle Rager, gain the initiative, bring Dimir Houseguard back, transmute it, get a Pestilence, play the Pestilence. That sounds like a lot of mana, and it is. But the reality is that this is a ramp deck. Like, we might be able to do that. That is disgusting, Zach. What a nice find. Jin says Snuff Out and Lotus Petal needs a reprint for yesterday. The prices are ridiculous. Yeah, I agree, Jin. There's a lot of cards that need that. Even like Ashnod's Altar needs a reprint. Long time ago. These cards are like C play in not that many formats, but they're really expensive. And I'd prefer that they weren't so crazy. I mean, Ashnod's Altar is $14 to $20, you know, given the day, and Snuff Out usually doesn't go above 10, but still, you know, it hurts more when you're playing 60 card Pauper than it does when you're playing PDH. Oh. I am so sore. I went dancing on dancing to one of my favorite artists. For those of you who don't know, it's an artist called Mr. Carmack. And he, Mr. Carmack came to Bellingham, where I live, and played an amazing show. And I broke my back out there after doing leg day at the gym with some friends. And I am so tired right now. Like 2 days later, my legs are still shot. So I'm going to use the standing desk for what it's for here. Yeah. Okay, so other cards. Sakura Tribe Elder, is this good enough? Yeah, Jonathan, we are on cuts. We are on cuts. If it's not a sapperling, cut it. Yeah. Understandable. Yavimaya Elder. Steve is a keep, methinks. Yeah, Steve is pretty good. Steve is pretty good. It's the classic Steve trick where he fogs combat for a turn and then like ramps you. It's the really obnoxious Primeval Titan gameplay loop that seems to always happen when I'm playing Burn. Just like, play Steve, block your thing, sacrifice it, fog the damage, ramp. Damn you, Steve! There's like so little here that I want to cut already. I hate it. Land ramp or rocks? I'm going to play Bonder's Ornament. I should probably be playing Lantern of Revealing. Silverglade Elemental. Yeah, so Silverglade Elemental is not a card that you generally see play. I like that it's a 4/4 that does this, but admittedly, ramping, if this is in your opening hand and you don't have that kind of mana yet, this is not going to be like an excellent spell. So yeah, this could potentially come out, but I don't think we'd want to go any lower than 15 ramp spells. I just like that this is a big butt. I like that it's got a big butt. We have so many draw spells. You can honestly just overload the good ramp like Cultivate. Late game, you can just win off Slimefoot. Yeah. I think that's good. So maybe we cut the bad ramp and we just play the good ramp. So, like, what are the better ramp spells that we would want to play? The Harrow, although Harrow is really only +1 land in a lot of ways, even though it's cheap. The other ones are other cards that we could play. Oh, Caravan Vigil is actually pretty cool. Yeah, we've got Kodama's Reach. Far Wanderings and Nissa's Pilgrimage are both cards that I'm interested in too. Far Wanderings is gonna put 3 basic lands into play if we have Threshold. Yeah, so Nate, I don't know that we want to play the 2-mana ones. Are you saying that we should be playing? I guess the idea would be with playing the 2-mana ones that we're wanting to bridge the gap. Oh, the Kicker sack a creature. Yeah. It's a really good one. That one's called Primal Growth. Yeah. Nissa's Pilgrimage is also great. Spell Mastery, you go and find 3 forest cards. You play a few of each CMC. Okay, so then maybe we aren't wanting to play the Ondu Giant type stuff. Maybe we just want to have like really excellent ramp spells. Yeah. So Primal Growth is 3 to get 2 lands into play, and they do come into play untapped if you have the Kicker. The thing is like, are we often going to have a creature in play when we want to cast this? I don't know that we will. Yeah, Nate, Skyshroud's Claim is in the deck. Tyler, Honored Heirloom for Graveyard Hate, worth it. Honored Heirloom kind of goes in like all decks. Not all decks, that's a broad generalization, but generally speaking, you're safe to put Honored Heirloom in a deck. I don't know if it's if this deck needs it, because we have other ways to hate on graveyards, like we will have Shred Memory. Yeah, Shred Memory is good. We might also play something like Fairy Macabre. Because we can get Fairy Macabre back over and over with Tortured Existence. I also really like that Fairy Macabre is graveyard hate, that you can flip off of Throne of the Dead 3, and then it's just a 5/5 flyer in black, which is powerful. We could also play Rotten Reunion, which would be great. That would allow us to generate some fodder. I don't hate that. Yeah. Yeah, we got kind of the best of the best here. Okay. So if we're not gonna play this like Ondu Giant stuff, maybe we're not playing Yavimaya Elder. And this card is good. What are your thoughts on Yavimaya Elder here? You guys can take a moment and do the little poll there. High value, very high value, but is it better than just like casting for 3 and just getting those lands anyways? Like for 3 mana, we can go and get 2 lands and put 1 or both of them into play. Or 3 lands with Nissa's Pilgrimage. Far Wanderings, you get 3 all at once. Yeah, seeing a preponderance of no votes. Okay. And there was some talk of playing the 2 mana ones as well, right? So Dallas, the deck list link should be in the description of the video. I think that we want 15 ramp spells. And we probably want Lantern of Revealing. Like, we could also play Honored Heirloom. Yeah, the ones that can grab a forest so you get a dual land. So, the ones that can do that. Yavimaya, no, let's see. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. 3 visits into the north, that kind of stuff. I think there's one more after that too. But I don't know. I feel like those are awful top decks, aren't they? You know, Krosan Tusker is also like a crazy value engine with Tortex. Yep, that's a good point. If we're doing nothing, if we're like not drawing anything late game, then we just start pumping out Saprolings, right? Tyler says, how much of this game plan is elbow tapping on mana to make saprolings? I think that it's such a powerful effect in context to what the deck does that we can always lean on it if we need to, but that we will have other things going on. I guess the idea is to say that if we do ramp hard, that even if we have like dead ramp spells in the late game, they're all contributing to the goal of just producing tons of saprolings. So I think I'm going to keep the Krosan Tusker because its interaction not only finds us a land, draws us a card, but also if you loop that with Tortured Existence, that is pretty sexy. I like it a lot. It's not even that mana intensive. Okay. So something like Quirion Trailblazer is actually like way worse than I thought. That's going to come out. Yavimaya Granger is going to come out for a 2-mana one. So let's do 3 visits. It's going to only find a forest card. Into the north. Into the north is going to make us a snow deck. Oh no. So maybe we do, we just do the Nature's Lore. That's also a forest card. That's fine. Yeah, it's okay. So 16 ramp spells. We'll probably end up cutting one of these. Maybe like, maybe we don't need Lantern of Revealing, although that card is very good. This is actually a deck where we are going to go and play the Witherbloom Campus. And we're also going to play the one that draws. Yeah, so one of the reasons I like Lantern is because we are going to really like the initiative in this deck. And Lantern with initiative has a lot of really powerful interactions. The Scry, the Scry 2 allows us to put a land on top, put it into play with Lantern. We also there's also the what is it? The oh shit, I forgot the other one that we had here with Lantern. There's another interaction here. Maybe it's a different deck that I'm thinking of, but yeah. So this is just great as a mana sink for us. And you like that more than Wood Elves. Okay. So maybe we cut the Spring. What if we cut Spring Bloom Druid and Wood Elves, and then we just threw in Honored Heirloom? So we've got onboard. Chris Jackson, with all those cards said, aren't mana dorks better? They loop in the late game for value, they block, they die for aristocratic effect. The dorks also maximize your commander. Yeah, I think there's a little bit of a split. You know, there's folks in chat that want the ramp spells that come with the body, and then there's folks that say, well, why do you need the body if you just have tons of mana? And I think that there's credence to both of those. Yeah, it's a tough one. I think Echoing Courage is going to just be like too cute for this. And you meet in a tavern. We're sort of getting to the point of where this no longer is successful at like hitting 2 or more creatures on rate. Yeah, so the mana dorks like Llanowar Elves and Arbor Elf and Findhorn Elves, Elvish Mystic, that kind of stuff. I think the problem I have with those in this deck is that we really do want to have access to our sweepers. And we also don't want our mana base to be super vulnerable to sweepers. So if somebody like sweeps our board and suddenly our ramp deck doesn't have access to the resources, then then that's troublesome. So yeah. Yeah, breath weapon just like ends our career. Or pestilence just like absolutely destroys us if we like lose all of our mana rock, all of our dorks. I like those cards in certain contexts, like particularly Abomination of Llanowar, because then you're making the Llanowar big if everybody kills your stuff. Yeah, we're down to 6 more cuts. Actually, it'll be 7 because we need to add. What's the? Oh, that one's not going to be legal, is it? Mortuary Mire, Fengraf, Witch's Cottage, Witherbloom Campus, Rot Farm. Oh, we don't have crop rotation. Yeah, crop rotation is just a very good card. We are going to cut a forest for a gingerbread cabin as well. Although the food token might just not actually matter. It's a nice tech to be able to get it with crop rotation, but mostly in decks that really are worried about their life total. I think Saproling.deck is not. I'm going to cut that actually. Although it's going to be so consistent because we're ramping. Yeah, let's just have it in there. $108 cards. No more ramp cards. We're not cutting anything more out of here. Do we need Brain Spoil? Brain Spoil finds many powerful effects in our deck. And it is also bad removal. We're a bit light on removal here, as you may be noticing. Shouldn't Farhaven Elves be a Wood Elf? Zach, you might want to take a chance to refresh the deck list. You have enough card draw to find the 5 CMC pieces naturally. I agree. I'm not a huge fan of tutors unless they have like very strong capabilities just printed on the card on its own as it is. Oops, we gotta bring Graveyard Hate back into, where'd it go? Yeah, back over in here. Honored Heirloom. Yeah, Dimir Houseguard just like does so much already on its own. Farhaven has better stats, I think. I think both Farhaven and the other one are just 1/1s. Yeah. Actually, crop rotation is also a tutor. And the beauty is that crop rotation is also Graveyard Hate. And crop rotation is also recursion. And some of you are tearing your hair out right now because you don't like it when people stack their cards like this. That is okay. We can agree to disagree. Bloodbriar. Bloodbriar and Mortician Beetle are only good when we are edicting the table, which we do a lot. But do we need this thick boy in here? Probably not. These cards are powerful. Is the third copy of Monarch in Throne Guard worth it? I really like Throne Guard. Oh, just you. Yeah. So Mortician Beetle would be the better one. I think Monarch is so strong in general. Throne Guard's a 2/5 with Vigilance. This thing is great. Here's a funny question. Do we even need Falconwrath Noble? Is this card dumb for this deck? Is it like excessive? Does it win more? I used to play this deck with Marauding Blight Priest. So You're right. Falconwrath is also known as #BlackStacks. This is a funny little thing that I've learned recently. There's a couple of these. Falconwrath Noble is one of them. Any deck that wants to do persist loops or wants to do like Thermopod type stuff with Dargo cannot combo through a Falconwrath Noble. There's other cards that they can't combo through. Yeah, it's Bloodseeker. There's another one called... actually, we'll just take a quick gander here at my Passageway Seer deck. Yeah, Poison Belly Ogre is another one. Poison Belly Ogre, whenever another creature comes into play, its controller loses 1 life. So if they, infinite sacrifice an ETB, they're going to die. Bloodseeker is one of them. Falconwrath Noble is one of them. And then the other one is Trespasser's Curse. And then there's Death Greeter. And the Death Greeter and the Falconwrath Noble are only when things die. But definitely interesting cards to consider in your black deck. They don't always work to stop Flicker combo, but they can. It just depends on whether they're able to find, like, how fast they're able to find removal. Because if they can Flicker a couple of times and lose enough life to make enough mana to find the card that they need to get rid of your stacks piece. Our removal is so bad in this game. We don't have enough targeted removal. And yet we're trying to cut cards. Is this too much protection? I hate to say it because I feel like we want to be able to protect Slimefoot occasionally. Maybe too much draw, Zach said. Yeah, what are we glutted on right now? Yeah, I don't need protection in a ramp deck. Yeah, I will say, you can remove protection. Oh god, I just realized too, we don't even have Return to Nature in this deck. The card is really strong. This is like a class act card. Dallas Peterson, I'm not convinced that people are going to be targeting Slimefoot over more threatening commanders or combo pieces. I fully agree, Dallas. And you know what? Because of that, we're going to cut everything that doesn't target our opponent. Savage Thallid is an aristocrat. Yeah. That's a weird choice. I mean, I know Slimefoot can get oublieted, but like, how many other sacrifice effects do we have? We have 8 things here that can, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 that can sacrifice at instant speed. We have 9, 10, 11, and then we have 1, 2 that can protect. I think we're fine. And I think that if somebody's oublieting Slimefoot, they're potentially just like making a grievous error. It might be like a crime of opportunism, but yeah, and I know this is like the funny thing is that a lot of people, Nate says the only time I've lost to Slimefoot, it's due to oubliette. Yeah, I get it. Oubliette sucks. And I also think that people oublietting Slimefoot, I don't know, it's just like it's kind of weird. I just wonder about the texture of that game, right? Yeah. Okay. So like mid-late game, Slimefoot gets taken out. I mean, yeah, it's like we're only playing Slimefoot because it's good, right? So like it makes sense that people would eventually get rid of it. So maybe our protection is very limited. Like Tamio's safekeeping can also protect permanents. So it can protect our tortured existence or our pestilence, which is great. And then Vines of Astwood also hits other people's stuff. Target creature can't be targeted by their own stuff. So now we are down to like just the nittiest of gritty. Shred Memory could potentially come out, but Sprout Swarm is just like such jet fuel. I don't know. Y'all. This is like pretty tough. I'm feeling like Falconwrath Noble probably has to come out. I also feel like Ashes to Ashes probably needs to become an instant speed. Dallas says, no way. Never cut the Falconwrath Noble. Not on my watch. Dallas, I salute you. But if we're not losing Falconwrath Noble, I need you to offer up an alternative. What are we doing instead? We have the Ivy Lane Denizen and the Master Chef, which are also cards that we could cut, but I feel like these are so good. Tusker is so-so. Okay. Let's get ruthless. Shred Memory, I mean, yeah. Finds Sprout Swarm. I mean, it finds like absolutely everything. It's like, you know, removal, card draw, ramp. Although you're never tutoring for ramp in this particular case. It finds some of your aristocrats. Actually, it just finds Deathspore Thallid and Lampad. God, Shred is so good. We've got Saproling Migration and Scatter the Seeds, which are just like good token makers, and I like those a lot. Sack Outlets. Yeah, all of them cost 3 mana to use. All of them. The only one that doesn't gain you life is Soul Reaper of Bogus. See, I wouldn't cut Lampad of Death Vigil first. I would cut Falconwrath Noble, I think. Because Lampad is just like a... load up the machine gun. But I could see us cutting like Soul Reaper. Maybe it's the worst of the 3. It doesn't gain us life. It sure feels like we're kind of sandbagging pretty hard here. with like our removal being low and like more edicts. Yeah, Jin, go ahead. And Nate, probably have to shave a card from multiple sections. Yeah. All right, so let's shave from ramp. Is coming attraction good enough? Well, you're a bad man for recommending a card when we're cutting. But, so attractions don't work in PDH because there aren't enough, and they don't even work in Pauper because there aren't enough of them. So, yeah, that's that. Tickets, however, are very good. Tickets and stickers. How much landfall boosting do we have to juice Spore Mound? Plenty. Yeah, Jen, it's a strange interaction, but attractions are basically like meaningless for Pauper in any format. But stickers and tickets have powerful interactions in many decks, particularly the card Command Performance in blue, which is so annoying that blue got the really good one, but you know, this is what it is. Okay, so let's cut a Soul Reaper of Mogus. Let's cut a ramp spell. But some attractions look really good in paper, but not in Pauper. You can laugh. That's a joke. Yeah. Yeah. I think that I actually haven't looked much into the attractions because I knew that they weren't legal, and so I kind of just looked right past them. But I do encourage you to look at the stickers. The stickers are gross. Some very good stickers. In certain decks, not all decks want the stickers. Some decks really like them, but our removal suite is so sad. It's so sad in this deck. Maybe we do need to cut Master Chef and Ivy Lane Denizen. It hurts. Yeah, I'm gonna put a little poll out. Are these cards too cute? Yeah, the funny thing is we're just pulled in a lot of directions. We've got like these card advantage engines, and we've got this ramp package, and we have all these edicts. Just feel like, so when y'all are doing yes, I poorly worded this question. Are we cutting those cards? Because total ramp at this point, because Lantern feels poor unless we're show it. Not sure that word. Lantern feels poor. Yeah. Lantern can be really, really powerful in these like big mana decks. I'm gonna admit, I'm pretty stuck. This is pretty tough. It's like the only other section here that we could consider is like we could do Eye Blight's Massacre, you know, take another sweeper out, but like taking out more interaction is like not great because we really don't have a lot. I'm actually quite uncomfortable with this number right here. It might be that like the things that have to go for like a decent amount of removal, sweepers, you know, all that is cards like Saproling Migration and then these like Master Chef. I worded that poll poorly. Do we want to keep Denizen and Master Chef, or do these have to go? And it feels weird to cut crop rotation, but that's another card that could potentially go. It's just so good when you're able to stack, like, you know, throw Mortuary Mire into play, put a creature on top of your library to Edict. Miracle's Edict and Innocent Blood. Oh man, why are we adding cards right now? Yeah, Return to Nature is really good. Miracle's Edict. And Innocent Blood is already in. We are there. Yeah, Victim of Night is, and Grasp of Darkness. Sidebar, you should probably boost your non-basic count by 2. You could probably. Yeah, I agree. What else would we play, though? We're looking for the green-black. Why no Doomblade? I think Doomblade's fine. Ashes to Ashes is going to come out. It's unfortunate. It's such a cool and powerful card, but it never ends up making the cut for me. That removal suite's a little better. A lot better. Enough out. Scry on ETB land. Yeah, Crystal Grotto. Hey there, Cody. Welcome. Glad to have you in the stream today. The cPDH Discord. Yes, Cody. That's exactly right. Let's get this guy, this friend here, an invite to the channel. Those of you interested who are not already a part, the tryhards have a fantastic Discord. Yeah, hop on in. We've got over 400 people in the server and amazing deck building going on. I really can't advocate enough for people to participate in what we're doing there. So yeah, hop on in, Cody. It'd be great to get some games in with you. Use that link there, and that'll lock you in. Crystal Grotto looks fine. It's also untapped, isn't it? Yeah, that's good. So crop rotation is nice because we're finding Haunted Fengraf, Mortuary Mire, and Bajuka Bog and Witch's Cottage. But man, this is so hard. Maybe Shred Memory isn't good enough, even though it finds like our most powerful spells. Yeah, welcome, Cody. Honored Heirloom is a ramp spell, and I think we want to be at a higher number of ramp spells than we would in Witherbloom. So I don't really want to cut this. Or if I did, it would just become another like generic ramp spell. Spore Mound is nuts. Like, we don't even have like all the good food in here because we're just like really leaning into Slimefoot, making all the tokens. I think we're gonna cut Eyeblight's Massacre. We're like playing Control though, so it's like, ooh. Okay. All right, chat. I really need definitive answers here. Are we cutting Master Chef and Ivy Lane Denizen? Because, oh my god. I know, Zach, you said earlier no. Mm-hmm. Ouch. That one hurt. We do have these protection spells that we could get rid of. But, you know, then we're starting to run a little lean. Little lean. I'm going to cut crop rotation. And I'm going to cut a land. There we are. Oh my God. Chat. We've done it. We're at 100 cards. And with that, I think we can move on from this deck. This is going to take a lot of play to figure out exactly what this is going to look like and whether our balance of cards is sufficient. Because I feel like there's so many cards that you want to play in this that it's going to be really clear what does and doesn't work for us. Like, for example, do we actually ever cast Greater Tanuki? I don't know. Maybe we don't. But maybe we do. Maybe it's just like a 6/5 beater off the top when we want it to be. So that's pretty dope. Okay. I'm going to add a little stream marker here so that we can indicate where it is we switch it up, because now we are on to the second course for your cPDH diet today. For a complete meal, we need to work on Sailor's Bane. Okay. So, we're going to talk about Sailor's Bane. Sailor's Bane, I remember when it came out and I made my deck, when it was spoiled, it was only in Japanese. So it was all translated. And it was called like Dragon Turtle or something like that. Nate, thanks for coming in. Glad to have you here. And I hope you have a great rest of your night. Thanks, dude. But yeah, Sailor's Bane, basically, when it first came out, I made this deck right away. Within 3 hours, I had purchased the cards and built a deck and started testing it. And it was really good until people started to freak out about how fast it killed them. Specifically, one player at a time. It has that thing like Bird Horse where like you feel like you need to slow it down so that they don't just like get a hold of the game and don't let go. And Sailor's Bane kills a lot faster than Bird Horse, which for those of you who don't know, it's Esior Keleth from Commander Legends. So essentially with this build of Sailor's Bane, with the original build of Sailor's Bane, there was a powerful Voltron strategy with the disruption. So what we would do is if you were in a control player pod, you would feast. You had counter spells to interact at like the last moment. You force everybody else to interact. You just pass priority on everything. And then you like kill whoever you want to. And they don't really have blockers. Yay, Jonathan. Welcome, my dude. Glad to have you here. We are just starting the second phase of our stream tonight, which is going to be working on a mid-range build of Sailor's Bane. So glad to have you here. For those of you who don't know, Pod Comorca is one of the leaders and the head of the PDH Homebase, the Discord, the other Discord that for those of you that aren't a part of it should be a part of it. They've got competitive PDH in there, and they also have casual, and they've got great memes, excellent emojis, and all sorts of other fine folks. So back to the story here. What I found with Sailor's Bane is that my build, which was a Turbo Xerox deck, and let's go back and find the original deck here. also called Snapping Turtle Hidden Dragon. This is a Turbo Xerox deck that has, yeah, like 20 some counter spells in it. You have all of these cantripping effects that are like putting cards into your graveyard very quickly. You have amazing cards like Foresight, which is actually dumb in this deck because Sailor's Bane measures things in exile as well. So, like early game, Foresight is basically 2 mana, 4 mana kind of thing. It's like a ritual, basically. You go and you find like Serum Visions, Opt, and maybe like Talarian Winds or something like that. And you put them all in exile, and then it goes into the graveyard, and then you draw a card, it replaces itself, and it feeds the Sailor's Bane. So, anyways, cool deck, really fun. But boy, I really had some trouble with this deck just dying to like mid-range aggro random creature bullshit where they're just sort of like running you over with like small stuff, and you only have the Sailor's Bane, and you can't really be blocking because you need to be clapping. You need to be clapping with the Sailor's Bane. So like didn't have enough blockers. So I built it up with a couple more: Hard Evidence, Secret Keeper, Talarian Terror, Augur of Bolus, and Serpentine Curve as a way to bolster that. And that is this list. However, what I want, and Zach asked about self-mill creatures. Yeah, Merfolk Secret Keeper is one of them. There's a couple of creatures that can block and self-mill. But what I thought about was I need to make a completely different list that is built to play a mid-range Voltron game. So what I mean by that is a Voltron game in which like my plan is not to slam Sailor's Bane on turn 3, which is what the other deck does. Yeah, you play Sailor's Bane turn 3, you kill a player by turn 5, and then you try to kill the table in 2 shots each, down to the last person. This one would be focused on having actual stuff in play. So this is actually going to look a lot more like Crackling Drake than it is like the original Sailor's Bane deck. And so the question is, how do we get there? We even have weird shit like Eric Cochran Sneak. You say, Ryan, why would we want initiative in a deck that can't gain life? Because the Forge puts 2+1/+1 counters on something. And that's really good when you're playing Sailor's Bane because a 9/9 is a 2-shot. 8/8 is also a 2-shot. So I don't know. Maybe it doesn't get there. But it's also like this 1/4 flyer that can like block stuff. But basically the principle here and the idea is I want to have more bodies that can just like be roadblocks or discourage aggression from my opponents while I kill them. And that's going to mean getting rid of probably some of the self-mill so that we're just naturally getting to 7 cards in graveyard that are instants and sorceries without like needing to mill ourselves super hard. So we cut cards like Talarian Winds. So I'm going to post this deck list in chat. You all can take a look at it and you can follow along as we build. And we're going to try and get this down to 100 cards. And if there's anything I'm missing, I want you all to recommend stuff for it. So some of the things you're noticing, we're going to have Pneumatic Wall, which is just a really good blocker, but it's also going to give us a second use of a spell. We might play slightly less counter magic, so maybe we cut some of the bad stuff like Flash Counter and Memory Lapse. Like these could come out. Maybe even Miscalculation. Iceberg Cancerix. So, yeah, it's a 0/4. 2 cards. So playing this basically instead of a mill spell. Yeah. So maybe we go type creature, put, top, library. Mill is a keyword now. This is good to know. Basically, the idea is like, it doesn't really matter if Sailor's Bane dies. So, like, we can afford to play, you know, some more stuff that isn't like directly focused on Sailor's Bane. Because Sailor's Bane passively just gets out anyways. And once he's out, he's hard to kill, you know. Yeah. I don't know that I like any of the cards that I saw there. So let's just do type creature O mill. We are probably playing Merfolk Secret Keeper because it's both like mill, it's an adventure card, and it's a 0/4 blocker for 1. So yeah, but something like Armored Scab, 1/4, put the top 4 cards of your library into your graveyard. That's definitely interesting. Drowned Yard Amalgam's 5 mana. It's a little too much. Excavated Wall has to tap. It's not so great. Homerid Explorer is 4 mana and provides no card advantage. If we're going to play like these sorts of mill effects, they're essentially rituals. So there needs to be something else about them, primarily like a big butt. Oh my god, the petitioners. Just play Sailor's Bane petitioners. Sailor's Bane petitioners. Oh no. I wish I hadn't seen that. Let's see. Yeah, so basically the best one I've seen so far was that scab up at the top. So if we went Armored Scab, that would make some sense. It's 3 mana, which is kind of a lot, but I think this is more about the cuts than it is the ads, to be quite honest. So let's see, creatures there. So what are we cutting then? Is it like bad stuff like memory lapse and flash counter? We don't need as many of those, perhaps. We could cut. God, Daze is so much fun though. So fun to daze people. Prize Wall is another one that's in here. Stickers are really disgusting in this deck. For those of you that don't know, the reason why we have Command Performance and Prize Wall is because if you like go into the list and you take a look, the stickers all basically turn Sailor's Bane into a 2-shot, or in some cases a 1-shot, or they grant it some form of like defensive capability or evasion, or you just get stuff like lifelink. And if Sailor Bane gets lifelink, I think there's a really good chance that you're not going to die that game to anything other than like commander damage or a combo. So giving lifelink in a mono blue deck is strong. Very strong. Maybe something like Compelling Argument comes out. Maybe something like Foresight, since it's like expensive. Or maybe we cut some of the bad 1-mana stuff. Maybe not. Disrupt probably comes out. Trying to play more of a mid-range game. Maybe we cut this and we cut Daze. Self-mill. Yeah, Chris, that's a great recommendation. I don't think we're looking too much for self-mill. In all honesty, I have some of those in here. I just cut a couple of them. And I think that the thing about self-mill is that we want like some card advantage, right? we don't want to be just milling ourselves, or it needs to come on a good body. So like Merfolk Secret Keeper is going to make the cut for that because it comes with a 0/4 butt. Iceberg Cancerix. Oh, this makes us play Snowlands too. That's funny. Remove all 25 snow islands. Yeah. And switch printing to something more appealing looking. These. Yeah. So I think this is, you know, where maybe we cut some of this stuff that is like really conditional, like Days could come out. Spell Pierce is still pretty good in this deck. Just makes it so hard for our opponent to target our commander when we've got all this 1 mana stuff. So we've added the command performance. Command performance is going to be pump, basically, in a lot of cases. And prize wall, we've already got in. You got to cut 5 more cards. Taxium Probe is good. We don't have basically any kill spells in this deck. We just have bounce spells, which is definitely dubious, right? Like somebody comes really knocking on the door. We're not going to have any way to like fight that thing except by bouncing it and maybe tempoing them down. But the idea is that this is going to be a more balanced version of the Turbo Xerox deck that I had before. We have Candlekeep Sage, and maybe this is just like not that good. If, you know, if Dragon Turtle, like if the turtle isn't dying that much because it's hard to target, and Candlekeep Sage is nice because what it does mean is you can go shields down. You just play your dragon out, you draw a card, and they go to kill it, and you're like, sure. And you just like draw another card. So this does help us grind. Which is quite nice. Quite nice indeed. Maybe Thought Scour. Maybe Thought Scour and Mental Note come out. These cards are very good for powering out the Drake, but again, you know, maybe we're not hyper focused on the Drake. Foresight. I like Foresight because early game Foresight ramps you really specifically. It's going to always put what you want into exile, and then late game you just exile lands, which is dope. So I like getting rid of these. I think Mental Note and maybe something like where's a lot of Thought Scour? There we go. I like these other ones. We cut something like perhaps these, like One with the Wind, Spectral Flight. Yeah, Jonathan, we're working on Sailor's Bane. We finished up the Slimefoot. Slime Boy is all done. And now we're working on a mid-range Voltron build of Sailor's Bane that's an adaptation on my Turbo Xerox deck. And the idea is to have more creatures that can block and provide value when they come in, and a little bit less hyper-focused on turboing out our Sailor's Bane. Cut something like Attacks in Pros. I'm surprised no deep analysis since you can flash it back and still counts for Bane. Chris, we do have deep analysis. Yep. Yeah, you found it. Yeah, deep analysis is really gross in this deck. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do where you can like gush. You can like float mana. If you don't hit your land drop, you can like float your mana, gush, play one of your land drops. Pay the 2 for Sailor's Bane with protection up, and then you go to end step and you've got too many cards in hand and you're like, oh no, I have to discard deep analysis. And it's great. and then you like pitch instants and sorceries into your graveyard that make the Sailor's Bane castable again. So think twice. Think twice is slow twice. Yeah. But it is also something we can discard to draw cards from the graveyard, and it is slow. Yeah. Okay. We have no shortage of draw effects in this deck, as you can see. No shortage at all. There are worlds where we like top deck Candlekeep Sage in the late game, and it's just like useless. Like, you know, this card is, we want to see this like very early. We want to see this in our opening hand. We really don't want to see it other than that. I think we could probably cut one of these evasion spells. I think one with the wind can come out. And now we're just down to one more card. Just have to cut one more. Gataxian Probe is so strong in the Xerox form of this deck, but it's so... I guess we just cast it for one later on. That's nice. But the life is not something we want to be paying, essentially. Sleight of Hand, Shadow Rift, Serum Visions, Otherworldly Gaze. Otherworldly Gaze is also... what is Intervene doing for us? Pod says. Intervene is just a fantastic counterspell. It is a 1 mana protection spell for Sailor's Bane. Not that it really matters that much. Sometimes it does, because we really do need to like get in and kill somebody, you know, or really get that final lethal in. Maybe the better question is like, what about Sneak? What is Initiative doing for us? Undercity. Yeah, Undercity. Find the playtest token. Turn over. So Undercity is going to goad. We probably put Forge, and then we goad, and then we either draw a card or make a blocker, and then we Throne of the Dead 3. And Throne is probably, in a lot of cases, not going to hit a creature. Because of these creatures here, only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them. Initiative and Monarch in a Voltron deck stops people from taking it from you because you will hit them harder in return. That's an interesting idea. So maybe we should be playing Azura Fleet Admiral. So would it be... Yeah. That's kind of interesting. And it's kind of unblockable too. The only thing is, like, you know, it's only a 3/3. Yeah, Zach says half your creatures have Defender too, so size is less good. Yeah. Initiative does some nice stuff. I like the goad. I like the goad a lot. I like the pumping my Sailor's Bane up. Finding a land is also not nothing, although we really don't need more than 4 lands in this deck, like, ever. The Throne is unlikely to do anything. The card draw is nice. The body could be relevant. It's kind of iffy. You know, like, In the case that we flip like a Tolarian Terror off the top, that's pretty gross. If we flip like a Pneumatic Wall off the top, then we're getting a 3/7 defender. We don't really need the attacker. We just maybe want something big that deters our opponents. I don't like the idea of having people coming after me and like actually impacting my life total that much. So there's that. The Monarch is quite good though. The Monarch people might not value the Monarch enough that they want to get hit by my Sailor's Bane. But then again, my Sailor's Bane has like ulterior motives. It's like my Sailor's Bane is going after who I think is going to kill me. So, yeah. Iceberg Cancerix is so good on that turn 1. What is this? What is Iceberg Cancerix got there? What is this little thing here? Is there like a fish? Something squished? Little sigil on the bottom of that iceberg. So I just cut Gitaxian Probe, which probably seems like heresy in this deck, but it's going to be okay. Frozen Fishsicle. Yeah. Cancerix is hungry. In fact, speaking of crabs, I just watched, was it like episode 2 through 4 of House of the Dragon? And I never want to see a crab ever again. Just saying. I like eating crab. Eating crab's good. Maybe we get rid of days. Yeah, let's get rid of days. Sweet. There we are. Let's do a little play testing here, and we'll see how this works out. Oh yeah, Chris, don't worry. Don't worry. I have said nothing that you don't know from the first episode. You're all good. They'll literally mention the thing I'm talking about in the first episode in like the first few minutes. So you're all good. Zach, in a deck box, because that's what it eats. Okay. So like opening hand, like this is the opening hand I drew up. Like this. So if we draw for turn, we go Island Merfolk Secret Keeper, mill 4, mill 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's already Sailor's Bane. Looking pretty nice. We go next turn, draw into a Preordain, and we go Island. Let's go Island Preordain. Scry to put both of those to the bottom, and then draw Deep Analysis, which is really gross because then we go Careful Study, draw 2 into Frantic Search, and we pitch Deep Analysis and see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Next turn, yeah. So if we pitch Frantic Search, that's 7, and then we go untap Opal Palace, tap these. Sailor's Bane comes out. He's already a 2-shot kill with a single counter. And then we pass turn. We probably go. So we've got these 2 cards in hand. So now 1 land. We probably keep this for something else. Maybe we go 1, 2, 3, Seagate Oracle. Look at the top 2. Command Performance and Tolarian Terror. What a tilt. These cards are amazing. Jonathan says, somehow with our edits, we now went from $80 to $130. Yeah, the reason it went up was because we added the Snowlands. because we have Iceberg Cancerix. We have one Snowland card, and now our deck is expensive. More expensive. This is on the more expensive of the cPDH price scale. It's like above average for sure. So I think that even though command performance is dumb, we got to look at what we got. So we got prowess, we got vigilance, and we got whenever this creature untap target permanent. So command performance is great, but we're not going to take it this time. We're going to go bottom of our library, and we're going to grab the Tolarian Terror and cast the Tolarian Terror. And then we smack someone for 8. We draw a Haunted Cloak. So we probably play our land out now. Yeah, this is a good start. I like this a lot. Be able to cast our Merfolk Secret Keeper. You can tell it doesn't fill the yard nearly as fast as what we were doing before. You know, we'd probably pay 2, exile the Deep Analysis. Got Vigilance back, never punished. Yeah, that was one of the options. Draw these 2, absolutely never punished. For that Deep Analysis, we probably cast our Secret Keeper. And this is kind of what I was looking for. You know, like a nice wall of bodies that disincentivize people coming and attacking us. And then we just smack them with this 8/8. And maybe it's the Abyss. You know, maybe it's like they just have to throw a blocker in front of it every turn. Or we get Haunted Cloak and it doesn't matter if they block, which is great. I love it. Get a Lonely Sandbar. We cycle that because we don't need that. We're going to draw an Otherworldly Gaze, which feels kind of bad. Play a land. Probably tutor up a draw spell like Behold the Multiverse. Or actually, in this case, I think we want Scattered Thoughts. Scattered Thoughts. Oh, we don't have it. Wait, what? Oh, no. Okay, so we do Behold the Multiverse, because this is like big card draw. And then we can pass the turn with Counterspell and Dive Down Up and, you know, hit somebody. And let's just pretend we have to use those things. Go boom, 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 boom. Keep it alive. And yeah, at this point, we probably just like slam this Haunted Cloak. Or actually on upkeep, we would have Otherworldly Gazed. Because that is generally the play pattern. And we would bin Cancerix and Boomerang. And so, yeah, we would have just drawn the Mana Leak. Yeah, this is great. Let's try another one. Okay, so we've got land, blink, augur, strategic planning. This is looking like a really good hand. This is one of those funny hands where you get Winds of Rebuke early. And Winds of Rebuke, you just use it on somebody's mana rock on turn 2 if you don't have other things to do. This game we do have things to do. So we're going to go Brainstorm, which is a great draw. So we'll draw and cast Brainstorm, and we're going to get these cards here. Academy Wall. Just what we were looking for. So in this case, we probably put this on top and strategic planning on top of the library. And then when we go to untap, instead of drawing this blink of an eye on the other one, I guess we would have to have a second land out. So yeah, we'll just draw that blink of an eye, play this land. Now we know that Augur is going to hit something, which is going to be strategic planning. Although in this case, we probably take Otherworldly Gaze because it's mills, and we've got lots of card advantage. So we pitch these to the bottom. We take this, and then we draw for turn. We get Echoing Truth. Maybe we invest in the future here. I kind of like this idea that like maybe turn 5, we get our Drake, our Sailor's Bane out. People aren't as scared because it's not as fast. Um, yeah, let's we could also take this turn to Otherworldly Gaze at end step. Draw 1, 2, 3. We are going to want a land. We're probably going to pitch this in there, pitch that in there. Let's pitch this in there too. No, we'll keep this on top. And then we'll do it again to mill the other 2 cards that are on the bottom, which is going to be this, and this does not help us to mill. So we'll put that on top. We'll draw island, play this, probably go something like Academy Wall, cycle this to draw this, untap Shield Wall Sentinel. I love all these big butts that we get to roll with here. I think this is a powerful new way to do Sailor's Bane. Land. Okay, that's a lot of lands. More than we would generally want to see. We kind of want to see 2 in our opening hand. Arcane Flight is kind of useless until we get something better, but we have 2 really good cards here. So we'll just draw and see how it plays. We'll go Island, and then end step, we will cast it. Even though Brainstorm at end step is kind of goofy, it's okay. We're gonna discard a lot of cards anyways. So this is gonna be a great card to have on top. This is gonna get our Drake out really quickly. So let's put Arcane Flight back on top and a land. And we'll keep these 2. And we'll draw a card for turn. Gonna get that land, unfortunately. It's okay. Play the Cancerix. And then, yeah, we pass turn. And this turn, we can do some pretty cool stuff. We can go land, mill 2. Ooh, Candlekeep is a bummer. But Deep Analysis, though. Hey. 1, 2, 3. Baby got back. This dragon is looking more like the end of Shrek 2. Baby got back. Yeah. It's not going to be nearly as fast. 1, 2. Ooh, Serpentine Curve. And actually, we're casting Frantic Search here. And so let's just pitch Arcane Flight. And it's kind of weird. At this point, we could decide, like, do we want to cast a whole bunch more spells this turn? Because we could get rid of this. Yeah, Foresight, like that. And then we untap and we cast Preordain. 1, 2. We're going to take both of these. So we'll leave this one on top, take the command performance, and then we foretell this. And then we pass. And we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're really close to casting the Sailor's Bane. We could go. Oh, this is turn 4, so this is our 4th land. So we go 1, 2. Strategic Planning. 1, 2, 3. We get to take one of these cards. God, Prize Wall is kind of insane with this command performance, but Prize Wall is really slow. It's the one concern I have with Prize Wall is it's a 0/4 that, like, over 4 turns, gets to put a sticker on something. But it's no turbo. That's for damn sure. I think command performance is fine on its own. Let's look at what we've got. We got Menace and we got Lifelink. Okay, well, pretty obvious what we're doing this turn. So we're going to put this into the graveyard, this into the graveyard. We're going to take the mana leak, and we're going to pass the turn, and then we're going to cast Behold the Multiverse at end step. Scry 2. I don't think we need either of these. Bottom of the library. Bottom of the library. Draw 2. Gonna get Mizium Skin, and basically the same thing. All right, so we draw, and our deep analysis is exiled. So this is what we drew, and then we just go land, Sailor's Bane, and then like I don't think we care actually if somebody interacts with. Oh no, we do want to resolve our command performance, so we actually want to have 5 mana up so that we can command performance, Mizium Skin, mana leak, give it lifelink. So maybe end step we go, you know, blink of an eye, and we like bounce something that's harassing us, and then we draw a careful study. So yeah, now we go tap 2, we do command performance, we get this one, we grant it lifelink forever. And then somebody tries to interact with us, and we go mana leak, they go to kill our creature, we go Mizium Skin. And yeah, then we untap. And now we've got counterspell, all this stuff. And now we can even go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 for Serpentine Curve. It's pretty good, but we don't get to hold up a counterspell. So maybe we just chill until we get another land, and then we can play it with counterspell. So yeah, this is kind of the idea with the deck, was just, you know, make something a little bit slower, a little bit more intentional around surviving, a little less like suicidal in that regard. Because I think that the Sailor's Bane is just, you know, can be the way I built it was just like so single-minded in its like purpose to produce an early Sailor's Bane and start getting to work, and that was freaking people out and causing them to engage in sometimes poor target priority with me. Although I understand the threat is huge. So yeah. Well, we've got this one here all kind of wrapped up. I'm going to leave this link in the description for y'all. Yeah, well, I don't really have anything else to work on for this evening, so either wrap it up right now, or if anybody's got any questions, anything they want to talk about, anything they want to chat about, I'm here for the next half hour if folks want to hang out a bit longer, or we can wrap it up. What do y'all think? What's next on builds? You have a different robe. Yeah, this is my my fuzzy vest. It is indeed different. Yeah, it's very comfortable. It's a different kind of swag, John. So Zach, you asked what's next on builds. Let's take a gander here for Google Keep. We've got Corpse Augur, Ravenous Chupacabra, Narfi, Betrayer King. I have some cards here: Child of the Pack, Kangi's Lieutenant, Drogskull Captain, Sludge Strider. I'm going to say that Sludge Strider is going to be next stream. Yeah, Sludge Strider is going to be next stream. Yeah. Pod says sludge is going to be a headache. I fully agree. Uh, our Esper machine overlord is going to throttle our brains um, because it's going to have so many hundreds of good cards that can fit in it. I just think that that deck is got to be nuts, right? Like, I mean, it's kind of mana intensive, that you're like having to pay every time, but it's like, um, it's just got to be good, right? Esper. Do I have a prototype of this deck yet? Let's see. Oh, I do. Oh, I already have. Oh, I already have 78 cards for it. Hide your eyes. Hide your eyes. But yeah, for folks who don't know, Sludge Strider, 4 mana Esper, 3/3 insect artifact creature. Whenever another artifact enters the battlefield under your control, or an artifact you control leaves the battlefield, you may pay 1. If you do, target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. And even though this is targeted and it doesn't hit everybody, which makes it slower, it it's like the enter and the leave is a lot. That is really good. Which means that we're going to gain a ton of life. Somebody's going to feel our wrath. We're probably going to do some really stupid stuff with Glinthawk and Core Skyfisher. There's some interesting aristocrat stuff here I've got listed, like Moldfolk can sacrifice artifacts. We've got all the new stuff that was printed, like Nimblewright schematic and Wellspring. Although Wellspring's old, Nimblewright schematic and Prized Statue. Prized Statue is going to be crazy in this deck. So strong. And some Ashnod's Altar stuff. Yeah. Play some border posts, looks like. Yeah. Steelfin or the Sky Swimmer Koi. It's kind of gross in here. We could also probably do like a Banishing Knack, like soft combo kind of a thing, which would be very cool. And then just like so many mana rocks. Like I want to play like Ether Sworn Sphinx level of mana rocks. It is a 3/3, so it dies to most red removal. It is black, so it doesn't die to a lot of that. It does not die to go to the throat, go for the throat, which is good. It's a good thing. Yeah, but this is gonna be a next week thing here. We'll figure out how to make that one together. Let's see, what else do we have that we could look at while we're still here? No, go away, Sludge Strider. There we go. I guess I could take this moment to flex my Passageway Seer deck, but I think that one is actually just going to be a deck tech on its own. Is there anything in here that I haven't worked on? Yeah, Ravenous Squirrel is going to be its own video as well. We'll do that one together. Venom Thrope is probably going to be its own. Yeah. Yeah. I think that the stuff that I have here tonight would probably take us another hour or two to work on, and so I think we're just gonna call it quits for tonight. And thank you all for stopping in today. It was really great having you all. And you get a chance on your way out, if you haven't yet, just click that little like button, subscribe, do the algorithm things, and yeah, it's great having you all here. And we'll look forward to catching you on the next stream. So thank you very much. And yeah, Jonathan, we'll catch you on the flip side. Thank you, and take care, y'all.